We're continuing with part 2, showing the rest of the video store refactoring. Let me get that on the screen. Okay, so where we left off, we were looking at the price, and we've got the prices, the different types like regular, new release, and children's, but we're still carrying this price code around. And if we look around, let's find out who's using it. So the only place the price one is used is in movie get price code. Let's go there, and we can see that one's grayed out. It's not being used. Okay, so this is not being used. We can get rid of it. It's dead code. Let's kill that set price code comment too while we're there. Okay, and our test should still run. We don't see a compiler issue. Good. Okay, now price, that's grayed out, never used. Okay, no one's looking for it. Assigned but never accessed. So it turns out we don't need this. So let's modify this one. Pull it out of the signature, price code, and remove it. If we look at the children now, they're just calling super. There's no issue there. Price code. And we don't need to do this. And if we're going to just have an empty constructor, we can get rid of it. And the price code is gone as well. So we'll check and then clean up the other two. All right, so that's good. Now there's no need for this constructor. And similarly, this one. Okay, so a couple minutes in, we've already got the prices, only using the polymorphism, not using the code anymore. And we know that the price works on the amount or the cost of a rental and the points you get. So I think the price is in good shape. Let's see, these are never used anymore. Okay, the constants. So we can get rid of those as well. And the tests still run. Okay, so now looking, the movie knows the title and it knows the price. Price we don't have to look at anymore. Rental knows the rented days, the movie, and can figure out the amount and the points. That's fine. And now we're back into customer. Okay, so the price code's out of all that, and it'll be gone in the test too. We didn't need them in the constructors there, so they're good. Okay, so back in the customer object. So one thing I see at this point, I guess I've got a couple things. So I somewhere along the way I updated, so I get the little fancy commented things here. We don't have to have those with the 1.8 version we're using. Okay, so we've got the statement. We've pulled out a little bit of the parameters it needs. There's that my rentals being used all over the place. We'd like this line item maybe. So let's see. Well, we got each movie get title and the value of this amount. So we have to make a decision about what's the characteristic of this thing that's going to be held in there. Are we trying to share the movie or the title? It's conceivable the movie would be useful. Okay, so let's pull the movie out. Little variable, each movie. Okay, and now I'm parameterizing this little bit here. Okay, so I'll extract this and we'll call it a line item. Okay, it takes the movie and the amount. Again, I don't know, I would like the object first, and we can make just amount. Okay, so we're calculating the line item, given the movie and the amount. We can ask its title and do that. Okay, and again, I'm going to inline these things. All right, so now our structure is we get the header, we walk through the rentals, get the movies line by line. We get the total amount of the rentals, we get the total frequent points, and then we use those in the statement. So it would be nice. Let's make one more poll. All right, and the name isn't so critical at this point. I'm just trying to get it out of the path of what I want to parameterize. Okay, so this is the header, calculate the line items, calculate total amount in points, and the footer. So this stretch of code here down looks like a nice thing. So it's a kind of a form of a statement. Across the rentals with the name. So it's the customer name and the rentals. I guess the order's fine, but let's make that type generic, and we'll just call it rentals. Okay, so given the name, given the rentals, calculate this thing, and then we'll inline them again. Excuse me. All right. All right, now what I see, the statement, he's calling those methods. The method, it works on arguments it has already. Total amount, again, works on arguments it has already. It looks at the rentals, and everything else comes from those rentals. Similarly, the renter points. I'll make this iterable just for compatibility with the others, and I'll change this name to rentals. Okay. Oh, and a little experiment there. Okay. Calculating those of each one of those. So let's just merge that back in. All right. So with this one, again, we're looking at the rentals. There's no other information coming in that's not coming from the rentals. So all these methods, especially the header footer, okay. I'm going to my theory is I'm going to create a statement object that's going to hold all these things. And I'm expecting that this method is sort of a template method that's going to be in there. It says, given the header, given the footer, given the line items, calculate all those things. Okay, so with this, let's see. I'm getting puzzled because the rentals, it looks like these did not get carried through. So let me inline that again. Let's get rid of the method. Okay, I was hoping when I extracted this, I should have said that. Okay. Now if I do this, okay, so we pull out the rentals, we get the header, each line item, calculate those other sums, and add them to the footer. Okay. It might be nice. again, it's not perfectly clear to me what should go into this thing, but these rental points and the amounts, that's not really anything to do with the report per se. It's more data setting up the report. So let's move it above the line here too. Okay, um, so these three lines, the my rentals, the total amount, and the frequent renter points, they're they're kind of capturing the information that I have now, but the structure, like what I want to do with it, that's all in here, and that's all based on those values. So if I extract method, it's going to send me the the rentals. We'll change that to the name rentals, total amount, and I don't know. I think total rental points might be more communicative. Okay, and we'll call this state, whoops, statement. Okay, so given the rentals, given the total amount, given the renter points, can you compute the statement? And I think that's everything you need. Um, no, one more. Okay, so I'm trying to make sure we don't have to have any customer object going in. I'm just capturing the field, so I'm decoupling them a little bit in that sense. And let's capture the variable for the name. Okay. And now I'll try again for this. Method, rentals. I'm going to move this up. Total amount, renter points, and this is the state method. Okay, so now this thing is more like what I want. I see I've got statement. It's got those lines I'd expect in there, which is header, line items, and footer, which is a very generic statement. Okay, and those three methods, header, line item, and footer, they definitely should be part of statement, and then in the long run, they'll be overridden when you have different subclasses of statement. So what I'd like to do is get the statement, create the new statement object, and attach, starting with those methods, attach them over there. So the theory I have is that header, footer, and line item, so let me pull those together. That I can make those static, all right, because they only rely on information coming in from them. They don't rely on anything directly from the customer object. Okay, and I would like to have a class for statements. Let me call it receipt. And I'm just kind of cheating it into existence here. I could do it over in there as well. Okay, we'll make a new class over here, and maybe statement. Okay, so customer is empty at this point, but I'd like to move these static methods over there. So let's try that. All three of them can be moved. That's good. And then I'm going to move them over to statement. And I will make them protected since they're going to be used only by the subclasses. All right, so that one moves over, and then I'd like to move this one over. I think I don't have an argument on it. Yeah, so I can make it static. Do the same thing. Move statement over to statement from customer, and that's public, and it's going to be in effect our template method. I don't have to be static. Okay, and in fact, I would like to be given the statement the statement type or the statement generator I'm working with um, would be nice if I were given it. Okay, so um, let's convert this back to a method object. Um, no, I don't have that. Okay, let's just take the little consequence here. If I do this, and then the reference here, I'll say new statement. Okay, and it should still be running fine. Okay, so I like what's going on so far, that the statement is mostly getting out of the way of this customer class. Customer is focused on the name of the customer and the rentals the customer is responsible for. But most of this stuff we have around statements is really not a question of the customer. It's really more a question of what our report should look like. Okay, and these fields all come in. It's kind of the question of who gets this. I think, let's see, what I'd like to do is push this out to the caller. So let's see, I think extract parameter might let me do that. Yeah, so statement with a caller statement. That sounds like I want. Okay. So what this did was it basically pushed this out to the test. So that was extract parameter in IntelliJ. I think Eclipse has something similar. We said, oh, we wish this thing were passed into us instead of generated in place by us. Okay, and let's make sure it all hooks together. Okay, very good. Now I'm going to pull these things back in, inline them. Yeah, I think they'll all look better in there. Okay. Line's a little long, but it's more or less okay, I think. All right. Now we have a statement over here, and the statement class is looking like you'd expect a statement to look, with the exception that these are very specific to a textual statement that we have. So let's take care of those. So right now it's referencing them. It doesn't even care in the reference that they're static or not. So let's just make them instance methods. And the reason is I want to subclass them at some point. So very soon, actually. Okay, that's all fine. So I would like to make a text statement that's responsible for these three methods, and leave them abstract and let the parent class call on them. So we could introduce that over here maybe if we want to. So it will uh, IntelliJ will infer that we create class text statement, and it knows from the context that it had to be a statement. All right. And like we did before, we can pull methods down. So we'll copy those down to text statement. And if we run, now we're calling these methods. We're not calling the parent class methods. Okay, so I can make them abstract. Class. Same thing for this one. And this one. Okay, so you see we have a template method. We've got the algorithm here, write the header, write the lines, write the footer, return it, and abstract methods that we can override for the individual steps. Okay, and just to kind of prove to ourselves that this thing is valid, or it's a good design for extension, all right, let's work on a new test. So let's do a test for an HTML statement. Okay. I think we can use the same customer for both tests. All right, so that should be fine. We'll just add one row here just to kind of be sure we're seeing what we want. Okay. And then the assert equals, we're going to do customer.statement, but we're going to pass in an HTML statement instead. Create that class. Extend statement. We don't have those methods yet, but we can. Okay. We can let the light bulb take care of it for us. Implement the 3 required methods. Okay, they'll certainly blow up, but that's okay. The HTML, let's just assume we're doing the main body and somebody else is going to do all the wrapping and all that stuff. So I'll just assume that I'm going to do H2 Bob. I'm just going to put the minimal information. We probably don't care too much about line endings and so on. You can make your test more sophisticated on that, but I'm just trying to get all the pieces there. And let's assume it's a well, let's just make a list of these things. So let's just assume the name is there. We had JAWS. Let's make it JAWS 2 just for variety. And his price is regular price. I've forgotten how much regular price is. Let's say we're running for 1 day. The price is 2. And the rental is days rented. Let's assume we're renting it for 1 day. Okay, so the price is 2. And I'll just assume it's being titled in bold. Right there. And new line, and then you O, and you just O2. And just assume we're going to ignore the final bit. Don't care what the printer points is. We're not going to put it on the receipt now. Okay, so it's just a slightly different format. You are getting this from somebody who's specifying the product for you, and you would have to take that into account. But I'm just making a very simple one just to prove that my HTML statement writes out the H2 and so on. Okay, so we have this new HTML statement. It's going to fail pretty miserably at this point because it's returning those nulls, right? Let's see the difference. Null, null, null. Okay, so pretty much garbage. All right, so the header, we basically said you're gonna write that in an HTML H2 tags plus the name plus those H2. Okay. Now there may be better ways to devise these statements that you want some sort of template or something like that. You can certainly evolve the design in that direction if you need to, but for now, we're just doing it very simply. We're doing it all as code. Lots of times code goes through these evolutions. Okay, so movie title, and our test, we returned /B colon and the price. Amount and a new line. And we had a new line up here. Okay. And then finally the footer of the break. UO. Amount and new line. All right. That should be pretty close. Let's see. No, we got some difference. Oh, my test was bad. BR should have a built-in close tag. So let's do that for the break. Oh, okay. And our numbers were coming out floating point. Don't you hate that when your test is wrong? We should have seen that up on the top, or I should have. Okay. At any rate, we've got the HTML statement. We can see that template method in place that we only have to override a few methods in the subclass that are provided for us. So those abstract methods have to be overridden, but if we can live with the generic statement making structure, we're all set. Okay, I'll take a peek through customer at this point. You know, I think the only thing left that still bugs me, and I don't think I'll address it today, but we might at some point, is this list of rentals. Okay, and it's that it is missing some concept that there's all the rentals you're making for today's transaction, your purchases for today that you're getting the statement on, and somehow that isn't a conceptual object. It's just a sort of a primitive obsession kind of situation. Not a full primitive, but the array list sort of acts like a primitive, and the rentals are in there. I mean, there's nothing that says list is the right thing if it were a set, or there are a lot of other representations we could use. And I also see this because when I'm iterating over them with rentals, right, this iterable over rental is really to capture something about this. And there's nothing from anything inside customer going on here. All this stuff is based on the rentals that we're doing. So this method really belongs on that missing object, and same for this one. And if you did that, you would pull this customer to a little even simpler state. Okay. The final thing I look at this, and this is kind of a design question, right? I'm passing the statement into here to get the information. You know, it could be a better design to say, let me give you the customer to the statement, you know, rather than the individual things. Maybe the statement does know the customers. It's sort of a different level. So we, rather than having the customer depend on statement, which is sort of like a domain object looking at a user interface object in some ways, I might like to have the statement that knows customers, and it knows, how do I get the rentals? Well, I ask the customer for them, and I would probably make the customer iterable or something so that we could do the same thing. Same thing here for the amount and the frequency. I might switch over and do that. That issue, you know, it's a design decision. Totally wasn't obvious to me with the statement we started with. It was just too big to understand and all that. But now we're at the point where we've got a very simple customer, a very simple movie. Rental and movie are both very simple, and price is simple as well. All the individual pieces are pretty simple, and that puts the design challenges we have into a little more relief. So those two things, the statements and then the missing object that I'm calling for the transaction overall, would be natural next steps. But we'll stop here. It's been an hour and a half or so if you watched both movies, so we'll let it go there. Again, I'm Bill Wake, Industrial Logic. This is part of our Kata albums, and thank you for watching. Bye.